Welcome to The Critique. Today we're diving into a piece of analysis on Sydney Sweeney, specifically her Cosmopolitan cover, that siren lingerie line, and her very strategic silence on all the political stuff.
Yeah, and the source material here is, it's really rich. The creators have great instincts. They totally get that Sweeney is this huge cultural flashpoint right now.
Mm-hmm.
But listening to it, I just felt like I was being pulled in like 3 different directions at once.
That's it. That is the first big hurdle we have to talk about. The core idea is strong, but the weakness is really that structural cohesion. The conversation just oscillates so fast between the visuals, the business numbers, and then the political side of it.
It's a bit of a kaleidoscope, isn't it?
Yeah.
1 minute, we're on about the spelling of her brand, Siren, and then like 10 seconds later, it's Jeff Bezos and $1 billion. And then boom, we're talking MAGA Barbie.
Exactly. It's just tonal whiplash. And that scattershot approach, it really dilutes the analysis because the listener is bouncing between, like, is the logo ugly? And is she secretly a conservative?
Right. And you lose the thread. You don't know if her success is happening because of the controversy or, in spite of it.
So the suggestion here is to organize the whole thing into 3 distinct pillars, almost like a funnel.
Okay, so what would that look like?
You'd start with the visual and commercial product. Then you move into the media narrative, so that's the Cosmo article. And then you land on the big one, the political strategy.
So exhaust one topic before you open the next door.
Current draft, they start complaining about the spelling of siren, S-Y-R-N, calling it a branding fail. But then they immediately jump to the American Eagle sales figures.
And those 2 things just fight each other.
They do. One is, a pretty trivial aesthetic complaint, and the other is hard economic data.
Right.
So fix it by just exhausting the visual stuff first. Talk about the cover art, the Pamela Anderson vibe, the whole Y2K thing. And yeah, get the SYRN frustration out of the way early. Just frame all of that as the surface level.
Okay, so once we've dealt with the logo and the photos, what's the bridge? Because the jump to the politics is, that's the hardest part.
You bridge it with the money. That's the crucial missing step.
After the visuals, you transition clearly to the business. You talk about the billion-dollar cash infusion from Bezos and Michael Dell. You bring up the fact that her American Eagle stuff sold out. You have to establish her as a business force before you even mention politics.
Okay, that changes the stakes completely. Because if I know she's backed by Bezos and she's moving units like crazy, then the political stuff feels different.
Exact, because now the transition to MAGA Barbie becomes a story about resilience. You can say, look at these sales. This is happening despite all the political noise. And now you have a narrative.
The unstoppable force of commerce versus the immovable object of cancel culture.
That is so much stronger. It turns it from just a rant into like a proper case study.
Well, speaking of rants, can we talk about the evidence they use? Because a lot of this transcript is just reading tweets.
Oh yeah, this is a major area for improvement. The commentary leans way too heavily on what I'd call reaction.
I caught that too. There's a whole section where they read that one comment, make a proper porno or calm the fuck down. And then another one saying, not gonna lie, I aesthetically appreciate this. It kind of feels like they're letting the comment section write the script for them.
It does. And the weakness there is that it lowers their authority, When you spend 5 minutes reading what user 456 thinks, you aren't analyzing culture. You're just amplifying noise.
But isn't the point to show what people are saying? If the whole story is about the controversy, don't you have to, show the controversy?
You have to show it, but you don't have to just regurgitate. The suggestion is to synthesize those individual comments into broader archetypes.
Okay, so...
Instead of reading the tweet, describe the category of criticism.
So instead of quoting the specific guy demanding a proper porno, what do you say?
You frame it sociologically. You say something like, critics are struggling to reconcile traditional conservative demographics with the hypersexualized imagery she presents. Or, for the other comments, you could say, there's a segment of the audience that views her refusal to go fully explicit as a kind of breach of contract.
That elevates the tone immediately. It sounds like you've actually thought about the why behind the comment.
Exactly. Same thing with the political stuff. Instead of reading a tweet that calls her out for privilege, just summarize the sentiment. There's a prevailing argument that political neutrality is a luxury,
It proves you've done the homework. You've read the 1,000 tweets so the listener doesn't have to. You're giving the findings, not just the raw data.
And that leads us right to the Cosmopolitan article itself, because they spend so much time just mocking the writing.
Oh, they hate it. They call it a flowery book report and faux intellectual. They're making fun of phrases like fractured digital landscape and
Asserting with lace what she hasn't yet with language.
yeah, that one.
And look, I get it. The writing is over the top. But the weakness here is that they just dismiss it as bad writing without asking why it was written that way.
I see what you mean. It's easy to just point and laugh at the purple prose. It's a lot harder to figure out what the writer was actually trying to do. But do we really need to defend Cosmopolitan? Maybe it's just bad.
It might be bad, but it's bad for a reason. And the suggestion is to adopt a more analytical lens. Acknowledge that all that flowery language is a kind of a desperate attempt to elevate a commercial lingerie shoot into a big sociological statement.
Ah, so the magazine needs the big words to justify the pictures.
Precisely. Mainstream media in 2026, they can't just say, here is a hot actress in underwear. They need to intellectualize it. They need to find a message in the body.
So when the article says when a body becomes a message, that's not really about Sweeney, that's about the magazine trying to feel better about itself.
Correct. And that is such a fascinating angle that the current script just completely misses because they're too busy mocking the vocabulary. A great critique would contrast the Cosmo writer's desperate search for ideology in the underwear with Sweeney's own admission, which is just, I haven't figured it out.
That's the friction. The media wants her to be this complex thing, and she's just insisting on being simple.
And that friction is the real story.
This actually brings us to what I think is the biggest missed opportunity in the whole script, the strategic silence.
Yes, this is the heart of the matter. They actually identify a brilliant insight that Sweeney is a rare breed who doesn't care about being misunderstood and that her silence lets her be a canvas for everyone's projections.
It's a fantastic point. The idea that by saying nothing, she lets Republicans think she's a Republican and Democrats think she's, well, just an artist. But in the current draft, that point is just buried.
It's buried so deep, it's diluted by all this other stuff about her Euphoria character or, again, the spelling of siren. The strongest thesis in the whole thing, it just arrives too late.
So how do you restructure that? Do you open with it?
You center the entire episode around it. The concept of the power of the canvas. Make the argument that her refusal to clarify isn't passive, it's an active, aggressive business strategy.
So not she's scared to talk, but she's basically being paid not to talk.
Exactly. And here's how you do it. You open the political segment with a comparison. Maybe use Shawn Mendes or some other celebrity who over-explained themselves and got burned. Use that to establish the silence equals admission fallacy.
And then show how she just completely rejected that fallacy.
Yes, and you connect her quote, "I can't make everyone love me," directly to the box office success of The Housemaid and the American Eagle campaign. The current script mentions the sales, but they feel like a side note. They need to be the proof.
The sales are the verdict on the strategy.
Exactly. You conclude that whole segment by stating it explicitly. By refusing to disavow the MAGA label, she forces the audience to separate the art from the artist, a distinction modern audiences claim is impossible. That's the mic drop moment.
That is really powerful. It turns her into a mastermind, not a victim. But there's one thing that could undermine that, and that's the tone the hosts sometimes slip into.
Yes, let's talk about the tone. The transition between objective reporting and directly addressing the audience creates some serious tonal whiplash.
I noticed this. 1 minute, they're breaking down the Dell investment, very professional, very Wall Street Journal. And the next minute, the host is saying, keep it simple, stupid, or going on a rant about activist bullying tactics.
It's jarring. The script wavers between analyzing Sweeney as this business phenomenon and, getting into culture war grievances. It just alienates a huge chunk of the audience.
Yeah, you might lose people who are interested in the media analysis but get turned off by the aggression.
It limits the audience. The suggestion is just to maintain a consistent analytical distance. You can absolutely critique the pressure to be political without resorting to ad hominem attacks on activists.
So how do you make that point without the anger? Because that pressure is a real thing.
You frame it as a paradox. Instead of saying, these bullies are stupid, you say, this creates a paradox where demanding political compliance often alienates the very figures who might otherwise engage. See the difference?
It's the same point, but one sounds like a lecture, and the other sounds like an observation.
And that keep it simple, stupid comment about the cover, it just feels condescending. Frame it as a marketing triumph instead. Say something like, the cover succeeds through minimalist, direct appeal, proving that traditional glamour still outsells high-concept messaging.
That's smart. It validates the host's instinct, but expresses it in a way that respects the complexity of the market.
It's about respect for the subject and for the listener. When you clean up the tone, the analysis just shines brighter.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. If we had to give them the quick hit list of takeaways, what are we telling them?
Okay, let's recap. First and foremost, restructure. Group the visual, business, and political discussions into distinct blocks. Use that funnel method. Visuals first, business second, politics last.
Second, synthesize. Stop reading individual tweets. It kills your pacing, it lowers your authority. Just summarize the public reaction into archetypes. Tell us what people are thinking. Don't just read us what they're typing.
Third, deepen the analysis. Don't just mock the Cosmo writing. Analyze. See it as a symptom of modern media's need to intellectualize it. Explain the gap between the magazine's complexity and Sweeney's simplicity.
And fourth, and this is the big one, focus. Center the strategic silence thesis. It's your strongest point. Don't bury it. Make it the lens through which we view everything else.
And finally, the fifth point is tone. Maintain that analytical distance. Avoid the culture war ranting. It just makes you look emotional instead of objective.
It sounds like a lot, but honestly, it's mostly just moving the pieces around and tightening the screws.
It is. The raw ingredients here are excellent. They just need to be cooked properly. I mean, we see the potential for a really sharp, definitive episode here.
I would love to hear the version where they implement this. It would be a killer episode.
We invite the listener to apply these structural and tonal changes and submit the revised script for a follow-up critique. We'd love to see how this evolves. Thanks for listening to The Critique.
Looking forward to the next one.